I thought this day was about me, but at my own graduation, my parents acted like I didn't exist. All their praise? It was for my sister. The afternoon sun hung above the university courtyard like a crown of gold, casting long, shimmering rays across the campus. Elena stood in her cap and gown, the black fabric heavy on her shoulders, clinging slightly to her palms dampened with nervous sweat. Around her, the air was alive with laughter, hugs, and the sound of cameras clicking as proud parents captured every smiling moment of their children's success. It was a sea of joy and celebration, yet Elena felt like a single shadow in the middle of all that light. She clutched her diploma, the result of 5 relentless years of hard work, sleepless nights, and quiet determination. This was supposed to be her moment, the culmination of everything she had fought for. But as she scanned the crowd for her family, her chest tightened with the familiar ache of being unseen. It didn't take her long to spot them. Her mother's floral scarf fluttered in the breeze. Her father's phone was held high as he filmed, both faces glowing with pride. For a split second, Elena's heart lifted. Then she realized their joy wasn't directed at her. Standing between them was her younger sister, Sophia, radiant in a yellow sundress, surrounded by a small entourage of fans taking selfies with her. Her phone camera was pointed toward her own smiling face as she recorded a vlog about attending my sister's graduation. Every laugh, every pose, every tilt of her head was deliberate. Even here, in what was supposed to be Elena's day, Sophia was the star. "Elena, move a bit to the side, honey," her mother called out without looking directly at her. "You're in Sophia's frame." The words sliced through her chest. Elena stepped back, her heels sinking slightly into the soft grass, trying to smile though her stomach twisted. She had dreamed of this day since she was a child, dreamed of her parents' proud eyes on her as she received her degree, dreamed of the hug that would say, "We see you, we're proud of you." Instead, she was just part of the background of Sophia's latest video. When the ceremony ended, Elena walked toward them, her diploma still clutched tightly in her hand. Her father turned, finally noticing her presence. "Oh, sweetheart," he said distractedly, patting her shoulder. "Congratulations. We're so proud of you. You've worked so hard." But before Elena could respond, he added brightly, "Did you see Sophia's latest video? It already has 5,000 views. She might even get invited to another brand event this week." Sophia beamed, tossing her hair back as her mother adjusted the camera. "You'll get your big break too someday, Ellie," she said in her sugary voice, pulling Elena in for a quick side hug. "Just be yourself, you know? Confidence is everything." The condescension beneath her words burned, but Elena forced a smile as her father lifted his phone again to film. Sophia posed, holding Elena's diploma like it was her own achievement. The photo would later appear online with the caption, "So proud to support my sister at her graduation." A post that would earn thousands of likes and comments praising Sophia's kindness and family values. Later that evening, at the family dinner, Elena sat at the edge of the long dining table, listening as the conversation swirled around her like smoke. Her parents talked animatedly about Sophia's next sponsorship deal, about how naturally charismatic she was, about the wonderful future that awaited her. Her mother gushed over the dress Sophia had worn, how professional her video looked, how engaging she was in front of a camera. Elena smiled faintly, stirring her soup, her diploma lying forgotten on her lap. Not once did anyone mention her honors degree. Not once did anyone ask how she felt, or what she planned to do next. It wasn't that Elena hated her sister. She had admired her once. Sophia had always been the golden one, charming, lively, effortlessly adored. But as they grew up, the difference in how they were treated became impossible to ignore. When Sophia failed a test, their parents said she was creative, not the academic type. When Elena earned straight A's, they nodded politely and told her not to brag. When Sophia posted a dance video, they cheered and shared it with relatives. When Elena published an academic paper, they didn't even read it. It wasn't jealousy. It was exhaustion, the kind that builds over years of being invisible. The dinner dragged on, filled with laughter that didn't include her. Her parents toasted to the success of both our daughters, but every word that followed was about Sophia's latest achievements. Elena's smile began to tremble, her chest tight with the weight of unspoken pain. She excused herself early, stepping out into the cool night air. The stars were faint against the city glow, and she looked up at them, wondering if they saw her, if anything did. On her way home, she passed a store window displaying graduation memorabilia, mugs, cards, balloons that read, "You did it." She stopped, staring at her reflection between them. She had done it, hadn't she? She had worked herself to the bone to earn this degree, overcome every obstacle without asking anyone for help. Yet no one seemed to care. Her throat tightened as she realized she had spent her entire life chasing validation from people who never truly looked at her. When she reached home, she placed her diploma gently on her desk. The golden letters gleamed faintly under the lamp. For a long time, she sat there staring at it. The silence in her room was heavy, broken only by the faint sound of Sophia's laughter drifting from the living room downstairs. Elena picked up her journal, the one she had used to vent her frustrations through the years, and flipped to a blank page. She began to write, not for them, but for herself. She wrote about the way it felt to be overlooked, the way love could feel conditional, the pain of being told you're too quiet in a family that only values loudness. Her words poured out like a flood she had been holding back for years. For the first time, she wasn't writing an academic essay or a professional statement. She was writing her truth. By the time she set the pen down, the clock read 2 a.m. Her heart felt lighter, but her mind sharper. Maybe she couldn't change her family, but she could change her story. She looked at her diploma again, realizing it wasn't just a piece of paper. It was proof of her strength, of her persistence. They could ignore her all they wanted, but that didn't erase what she had achieved. As dawn began to color the sky, Elena whispered to herself, "They don't have to see me anymore. I'll make the world see me." The words felt powerful, almost like a promise, because deep down she knew this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. The weeks after graduation stretched on like an endless gray sky. Each day felt heavier than the one before it. Sophia's life glittered with new opportunities, brand deals, event invitations, and interviews with lifestyle magazines. Their parents beamed with pride every time her name appeared online. "Our Sophia is really going places," her father would say as he scrolled through her photos, showing them to relatives and neighbors. "Such talent, such presence. She's special." Meanwhile, Elena sat quietly at the corner of the dinner table, pushing her food around her plate, wondering how success could feel so invisible when it was her own. Her diploma still sat on her desk, gathering dust next to a stack of unanswered job applications. No one had asked her what she planned to do next. No one cared enough to notice she was struggling. Some mornings, she would wake up early, open her laptop, and apply to every position she could find. Assistant jobs, internships, even part-time work at bookstores. She tailored her resume 100 times, rewrote her cover letters, and waited. But the replies never came. Her inbox stayed silent, the cursor blinking like a cruel reminder that no one was listening. Sometimes she'd hear laughter from the kitchen. Her mother chatting with Sophia about her next brand collaboration, her father discussing lighting setups for Sophia's videos. It was as if the whole world revolved around her sister's glow. Elena told herself not to be bitter. She reminded herself that she loved Sophia, that envy wasn't the answer. But as days blurred into nights and her efforts went unseen, her patience began to crack. Every conversation became a quiet wound. At dinner, her mother would beam, "Sophia, darling, that new dress you wore in your video, everyone loved it. You've got such natural charisma." Then, turning to Elena, she'd add almost absently, "You've applied for something new, right? Keep trying, sweetheart. Something will turn up." Her father would nod, but his eyes would already be back on Sophia's phone screen. One evening, Elena came home to find Sophia sitting on the living room couch surrounded by packages, PR boxes filled with perfumes, clothes, and makeup. Their mother hovered proudly beside her, helping unwrap them while their father filmed the process on his phone. Isn't she amazing? He said without glancing up as Elena stepped through the doorway. Look how brands trust her image. Elena forced a polite smile and headed to her room, her chest tight. As she closed the door, the laughter from downstairs felt like it belonged to another world, one she could see but never enter. Later that night, she went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. The lights were dim, but she could hear her parents' voices from the adjoining room. She's just not like Sophia, her mother said softly. Sophia knows how to connect with people. Elena's too serious, too quiet. She doesn't have that spark. Her father chuckled. She's smart, but that won't take her far without charm. She'll learn eventually, or she'll stay average. Elena froze in place, her hands trembling against the countertop. The water glass slipped slightly in her grip, but she didn't let it fall. She just stood there, the words echoing in her mind, cutting deeper with every repetition. Too serious. Too quiet. Average. They were the same words she had been hearing all her life. Only this time, they stripped away the last layer of hope she had left. It wasn't that they didn't notice her. It was that they had already decided who she was. That night, for the first time, Elena didn't cry. She sat in front of her laptop, the glow of the screen casting pale light across her tired face. For years, she had buried her emotions beneath politeness and restraint. But now something inside her broke open. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before they began to move, faster than she thought possible. She wrote about the quiet pain of being invisible in your own home, about the cruel way love could become conditional, about what it meant to live in someone else's shadow. The words came out raw and unfiltered, soaked in truth and emotion. By dawn, she had poured her soul into a single story, not about herself directly, but about a girl who was always second best. She gave the girl a name, the Forgotten Daughter. Without overthinking, she recorded herself reading it aloud. Her voice trembled at first, but as she spoke, it steadied, each sentence charged with the weight of years she had kept silent. She added soft piano music in the background, gave the video a simple title, and created an anonymous account. With one deep breath, she hit upload. The next morning, she didn't think much of it. It was just a small act of release, something she did for herself. But by evening, her phone began buzzing. The view count had started climbing. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. Comments flooded in. You just told my story. I cried listening to this. It feels like you were inside my heart. People shared their own experiences. Siblings who outshone them. Parents who never noticed their pain. Years of silent longing for acknowledgement. Elena read every word with trembling hands, her eyes stinging with tears she hadn't let herself shed earlier. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. Over the next few days, she uploaded another story, then another. Each one was fictional on the surface, but rooted deeply in her truth. One was about a daughter whose parents forgot her birthday because they were too busy planning a surprise for her sister. Another told of a girl who found strength in solitude after realizing love shouldn't have to be earned. Her voice became stronger with each recording, her storytelling sharper, her emotions clearer. The channel, still hidden behind anonymity, grew rapidly. People from around the world subscribed, calling her the voice for the unheard. At home, her family remained blissfully unaware. Dinner conversations still revolved around Sophia's career, her growing follower count, and her collaborations. But this time, Elena didn't feel small. She had her own world now, one built on honesty, vulnerability, and connection. When Sophia laughed about an online rumor, Elena smiled quietly to herself. Somewhere out there, thousands of strangers were listening to her voice, not Sophia's. One night, as she watched the comments pour in on her latest upload, Elena realized something profound. She had spent her entire life trying to make her family proud, trying to fit into their narrow definition of success. But she didn't need their approval anymore. Her worth had never depended on their recognition. It had always lived inside her. The girl they called too quiet was now being heard by millions. As the screen's glow reflected in her eyes, Elena whispered the name of her anonymous channel, The Forgotten Daughter. The irony made her smile, because now she wasn't forgotten at all. She was finally becoming unforgettable. Months passed, and the world around Elena seemed to shift in quiet, unexpected ways. What started as a simple act of release, a few stories told in the secrecy of the night, had blossomed into something far beyond her imagination. Her anonymous channel, The Forgotten Daughter, had become a phenomenon. Each story she uploaded resonated deeply with people who had carried the same invisible wounds she once hid. Her soft, trembling voice became a symbol of resilience, a whisper that turned into a roar across millions of hearts who had felt ignored, unseen, or unloved. Every upload was flooded with comments and messages, not from faceless usernames, but from people bearing their souls, siblings, parents, strangers, all saying the same thing. You made me feel seen. Elena's small apartment transformed into her creative sanctuary. She no longer woke up with the heaviness of despair, but with the thrill of creation. Her desk was cluttered with scribbled notes, a microphone, and a small camera that she finally dared to face. She stopped hiding behind anonymity, slowly revealing more of herself in her storytelling. Her voice gained confidence, her tone strength. And though she still hadn't told her family about her channel, the world knew her name. Journalists began reaching out. She was invited to panels about online storytelling, interviews about finding empowerment through pain. Still, she kept her distance from the limelight, afraid that if her parents found out, their attention might once again dim the light she'd built for herself. But as Elena rose, Sophia began to fall. It started subtly. Comments under Sophia's influencer posts turned critical. People accused her of being fake, of copying others, of using family moments as performance rather than truth. Then one evening, a storm hit. A private conversation of Sophia's leaked online, screenshots showing her mocking her fans, belittling others in her industry. The internet turned on her overnight. Her sponsors dropped her, followers disappeared by the thousands, and her carefully curated image cracked open for everyone to see. At home, panic spread like wildfire. Elena's mother was frantic, pacing around with her phone, calling PR agents and friends for advice. Her father sat quietly in the living room, disappointment clouding his face. Sophia, once radiant and untouchable, was curled up on the couch in tears, her perfect world collapsing around her. Elena watched it all from a distance, feeling a strange mix of sympathy and inevitability. The spotlight that had once blinded everyone to her existence was now flickering out. One morning, Elena woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages from her mother. Her heart raced as she read the first one. "Call me now. It's important." When she finally answered, her mother's voice was trembling, half excitement, half disbelief. "Elena, honey, a journalist is asking for an interview about you, about The Forgotten Daughter. They say you're the creator. Is that true?" For a moment, Elena didn't answer. She looked around her small apartment, the desk covered in pages, the microphone still glowing softly from her last recording, the quiet peace that had come to define her life. She realized how much she had changed. The girl who once sought her parents' approval was gone. The woman on the phone didn't need validation anymore. "Yes," she said finally, her voice calm. "That's me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then her mother whispered, "We're proud of you, Elena. Truly proud." The words echoed faintly, but they didn't hit the way Elena once imagined they would. They were too late, like flowers placed on a grave long after the person was gone. For years, she had begged silently for that acknowledgement. Now it felt almost unnecessary, because pride was no longer something she needed to borrow from others. It was something she had earned within herself. The following week, her parents invited her home for dinner. It was the first time in months that they'd asked for her presence. When she arrived, the air felt different. The house, once filled with laughter that never included her, now held an awkward silence. Sophia was there too, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. The family sat around the table, and for the first time in Elena's memory, all eyes were on her. her father cleared his throat. "We watched your interviews," he said quietly. "You speak beautifully. You've helped a lot of people." Her mother nodded. "Your story's so powerful, so emotional. We didn't know you could write like that." Sophia looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't realize you were that good, Ellie." Elena smiled faintly, her expression gentle but unreadable. The girl who once sat in silence at this very table now sat with quiet authority. She wasn't here for revenge or to bask in their belated admiration. She was here because she had finally found peace with herself. "Thank you," she said simply. "I'm glad people connected with what I had to say." The rest of the dinner passed uneasily. Her parents asked about her future projects, her growing audience, and her plans to write a book. Sophia remained silent for most of the evening, her pride broken, but her envy still flickering beneath the surface. Yet Elena didn't feel the urge to compete anymore. She looked at her sister, not with anger, but with understanding. They had both been shaped by the same family, the same imbalance of love. The difference was that Elena had learned to turn her pain into something meaningful. After dinner, as she stepped outside, the night air was crisp and clean. The wind brushed through her hair as if carrying away the remnants of everything she once carried: hurt, longing, invisibility. The house behind her glowed softly, full of people who had finally noticed her, but she realized she no longer needed their light. She had built her own. She walked slowly down the street, her phone buzzing in her hand, a new message from a fan thanking her for her latest story. She smiled as she read it, her eyes glistening not with sadness, but with pride. The world that once ignored her now listened to every word she spoke. The family that once silenced her now repeated her name with admiration. But the real victory wasn't their recognition. It was her freedom from needing it. As she reached the corner of the street, she looked up at the stars, their faint shimmer like scattered sparks across the sky. "I'm not the forgotten daughter anymore," she whispered to herself. "I'm the woman who turned pain into power." And with that, Elena walked forward, not back toward the house that once erased her, but into a future she had written with her own hands, one story at a time.